There's all sorts of people that are going to roll their eyes as soon as I bring up this name, but I'm going to do it anyway because there still is a connection and fascination. And
Sure.
I rarely do it, but I'm going to do it here because we've got a USC channel, a USC show, and so Brent Venables has brought up all sort, and for much of the season it was USC so much better than Oklahoma. I'm talking about the rhetoric on the other channel, USC so much better than Oklahoma. And then suddenly within 2 weeks, it's look at what Brent Venables is doing. This is horrible. How this is unacceptable. So just in terms of OU fans keeping their eyes on Lincoln Riley, USC, of course, they're moving conferences as well, but having all sorts of issues on the defensive side. And, old friend Alex Grinch is now unemployed.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's it's very interesting how the narrative has flipped, hadn't it? Even nationally, between the whole USC Oklahoma divorce, the Riley Oklahoma divorce, if you will, and the move to USC. And of course, those two programs, as long as Riley are there, are going to be stacked up and compared. But I think it boils down to philosophy, right? Riley got to USC and he was looking for microwave results, which he got, to be fair, in year one. Brent Venables got to Oklahoma and said, okay, we're going to use the crock pot with this thing. It might not happen right off the bat, but we're going to have this program continually building towards championship contention with the goal of being there when we arrive in the SEC. And here's the thing, Mark, 2024, as we look ahead to next season, yes, Oklahoma is going to make the transition to the SEC, but there's another huge, huge change happening in college football, and that is the expansion of the playoff to 12 teams. And with the SEC being quite clearly the most loaded league in America, especially after OU and Texas arrive, you might not have to finish top 3 in the SEC in order to sneak into the college football playoff. So championship contention in the SEC, that standard, that designation affords you a lot more room for error than the Big 12 in the era of the 14 playoff. So I think Brent Venables approached this job at Oklahoma with the understanding that, okay, first couple years I'm here, we're probably not going to be playing for a berth in the college football playoff, and that's fine. But when we get to the SEC, especially given the added margin for error that we will have as an upper echelon program in the best conference in America, we're going to be able to cope with 2, 3, maybe even 4 losses over the course of a season and not have it derail our mission and still be playing meaningful football with a chance to work our way towards a national championship once December and January rolls around and you get that expanded playoff field. So yeah, again, it's a tale of two different philosophies. And Riley wanted to win immediately at USC. Again, he did. But much like Sonny Dykes and TCU, what's the nature of a microwave, Mark? 1 second, it's to 350 degrees heating your food. The next, you open up the door and it's room temperature, completely cool. And it's been that way for TCU this year in 2023 as they've come back to earth. The same is true for USC. And admittedly, Oklahoma fans are less than thrilled with the 2-game skid. But if you look at this from the big picture perspective, what you have seen with this Oklahoma program in year 2 is market improvement over year 1. And if Venables' philosophy, if his vision, if his culture continues to take root at Oklahoma, and there's no reason to think it won't or hasn't, then year 3 should bring even greater success for this program.
Something you brought up about wins and losses in the SEC as it pertains to a college football playoff berth. And there could be a great argument about the 4 additions from the Pac 12 improving the Big Ten and how you measure that out versus the SEC. But we will see it on the field. 10-2. History will show you if you run all the models of what it would have looked like for all these years. 10-2, you're safe in pretty much any conference. 9-3, that's where you need that SEC lean because you're about 15th in the country between 10 and 15. And it's going to be fascinating because there has been given preference to the SEC, but they have earned it based on past results, certainly. So how much of that reputation moves into the new format and versus just actual, of course, results on the field in non-conference play is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think when you look at the landscape of college football in 2023, there actually doesn't seem to be that wide of a gap between the SEC and the rest of the nation. At least not as wide as there has been in the past, right? Georgia is very clearly one of the top teams in the country. Alabama, they had to kind of shake off some early season doldrums, but they're right there as well. Beyond Georgia and Alabama, I mean, you kind of have a drop off where you don't really view anybody else in the conference right now as a true championship contender. Ole Miss has had a nice run. Their playoff contention probably comes to an end this weekend in Athens. But all in all, that is the nature of the beast in the SEC, because you're gonna get programs that beat themselves up every single week, and you truly have to be on another level to win 11, 12 games perennially in that league. Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, you look at any of those teams in the second tier of the SEC, you could make the argument they'd run just about any other conference in America. But especially because you're dealing with a 4-team playoff these days, they're never going to sniff that field, because it's virtually impossible, again, unless you have recruited and developed and are coached on the same plane as Georgia and Alabama, to be able to get through the grind of that SEC schedule and have maintained a level of play that allows you to vault into the top 4 at season's end. So life's going to get a lot easier for the SEC and all of the teams therein, I think, once the 12-team playoff arrives, because 2 losses isn't going to tank your season the way it has in the past.
Absolutely. Parker Thune, KREF Sports, OU Insider on Rivals. Any particular work, anything that you've got available that people need to know about?
Yeah, OUinsider.com is the place to be if you're a Sooner fan and you want all the best insight, behind the scenes insight at that, on OU football and recruiting. So get over there if you haven't already. Appreciate you as always, Mark. This is always a ton of fun to do.
Thanks, Parker. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Enjoy the game.
Yes, sir. You as well.